The Oklahoma City Thunder get their season started off with a loss in game 1 of 82. The Thunder went to Utah. They went to Salt Lake City, played the Utah Jazz, and got blown out in this game. Did not have a great showing from beyond the arc. But the rookies all showed up from this rookie class. How Josh Giddey, Tre Mann, and Jeremiah Robinson-Earl gave a glimpse into the future for the Thunder. The small ball lineup was in full effect. The rotations were weird. We'll talk about all of it on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I'm your host and editor-in-chief over at thundersintentions.com. Media member Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod and email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. Call into the show, 405-362-7128. On today's show, brought to you by McDonald's. This Locked On Thunder episode is brought to you by McDonald's, proudly serving communities since 1965. McDonald's has always been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's an unofficial community center. As a big thank you to our friends at McDonald's, as always, for being there for all of us in the community. I'm loving it, as always, at McDonald's. We're going to dive into the Thunder game against the Utah Jazz as the Thunder lose this one 107-86. The good, the bad, the ugly. Big takeaways tonight. The lineup rotations, the small ball defense, Darius Bazley, Josh Giddey, Trey Mann, Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, Theo Maledon, and so much more. Those are the highlights we're going to all get into. But first, we start the way we always do with our game overview. In this game, the Jazz were without Trent Forrest and Rudy Gay. That was expected. Forrest is in concussion protocol. Rudy Gay still recovering from a previous injury. The Thunder were fully healthy. And we got the starting center for this game. It was SGA, Lou Dort, Josh Giddey, Darius Bazley, and Derrick Favors. Mark says that Favors was starting due to, number one, the stability that he brings to the Thunder, and number two, due to the homecoming nature of this being a game in Utah where he spent the majority of his career. The Jazz started Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell, Royce O'Neal, Bogdanovich, and Rudy Gobert. Game 1 of 82, the Thunder have the youngest roster in the NBA, 23 years and 217 days. The only players inactive tonight were Aaron Wiggins and Paul Watson Jr. They were inactive because they did not want to use a day of their two-way deal. You only get 50 game days in the NBA on that two-way deal. They knew they weren't going to play, so they were inactive, but it was not because of a health thing. There was a moment in this game at halftime where the game was within 12 points, and then the Utah Jazz caught fire from the three and had a great third quarter to go up 19 points. Oklahoma City loses again, 107-86. Now, what were the big things from this game? Number one was the rotations, and we talked about this yesterday on the preview show. The rotations will be a big deal for a long time now, for the whole season, really. But again, we don't want to overreact to one game because look at last year, whenever guys like Kenneth Williams were not playing early on, and then ended up being a huge part what the Thunder wanted to do that season. So we don't want to go too far into it in terms of reactions, but it is important to note. Isaiah Roby came in with the starters taking out, of course, Derrick Favors. He was the first center off the bench. Trey Mann was the first player off the bench, taking off Josh Giddey. Had a lineup where it was SGA, Dort, Mann, Bazley, and then Roby at the center spot because he took off Favors. So that was kind of where the lineup was. That was very surprising because if you remember, Trey Mann had some struggles early on in camp and in the first preseason game of getting a shot off and catching up to the speed of the NBA, an issue that he's quickly adjusted to. And that should not be taken lightly. I know this was a blowout loss and all seems doom and gloom whenever you lose 107-86. But something that was very impressive was Trey Mann's ability to really adjust the NBA game to game. He's only been in 5 NBA games. You count the 4 preseason games on this one. And he's looked really good as of late. So it's interesting to see that he already earned the spot in the rotation. I, for one, thought, hey, maybe this is a candidate to go to the blue and really get his feet wet down there professionally. Maybe that's still the plan, but maybe it isn't with him starting this way early on in the rotation and being a priority player in that rotation. The lineup also went to SGA, Tre Mann, Pokusevski, Kenny Hustle, Isaiah Roby, because SGA played pretty much the entire first quarter. Maledon came in with about 34 seconds left in the first quarter, but SGA pretty much took the entire first quarter. The second unit looked like Theo Maledon, Tre Mann, Pokusevski, Williams, Roby. And then, of course, later on, Jerry takes the place of Roby. We saw minutes where it was Josh Giddey in there as well at Theo Maledon and Trey Mann. Mark played 11 players in the first half. The only players who did not play was Mike Muscala and Gabriel Deck, and he also did not play Ty Jerome or Vit in the first half. Ty Jerome did not play at all in this game. Neither did Gabriel Deck or Mike Muscala, but the two-way players, of course, weren't active. Vit Krejci got his NBA debut. It was good to just simply see him back on the floor tonight. Of course, he plays only 3 minutes and does not log a stat, but coming off the ACL injury from about a year and a month ago at this point, it was good to see him play and just ripping on the floor of an NBA game. And we'll see how much that kind of continues this year. I think that was a product of just the scoreboard and not the rotation. So we'll see if he kind of sticks in there Friday or not. I think that he'll play mostly with the blue this year, but if you can get him in a blowout game and just have him get his feet wet, why wouldn't you do that? The interesting storyline, though, from the rotations was that Trey Mann, I should say that Ty Jerome, did not play at all. And this is going to be part of the tough test for Mark, right? The Thunder are not trying to win games. It's been pretty clear. They're projected last on every credible website. They're not going to win many ball games this year. But within this season, your goal is going to be to develop players and to figure out ways to maximize your team in terms of player development. And unlike last year, the Thunder have a ton of guys who you were interested in. Think about last year, how many lineups that Mark could throw out there where you cared about maybe one of the 5 guys out there, sometimes none of the 5 guys you cared about out there on the floor. This year, this team is deep, not in the sense of a deep playoff roster, but a deep roster of development. And so there's going to be nights where guys like Ty Jerome, who we are all fascinated by and want to see and want to have him develop long-term for the Thunder, simply don't play. And it's kind of twofold, right? On one hand, it's good to have this many young players because it creates interesting games like tonight, where tonight was a blowout game, but yet you still found some things to watch for. Trey Mann in the later stages of this game, Josh Giddey in the later stages of this game, Jeremiah Robinson-Earl playing well in the second half. You still got to stick around for this game and be entertained, even though the scoreboard was so lopsided because of the plethora of young players. But on the other hand, it relegates guys like Ty Jerome to the bench. And it's how I don't really find ways that a guy like Mike Muscala or Gabriel Deck get that much run with this team because of the simple fact that they're really just not high priority. If you're going to rank them, if you create your list of guys you want to see the Thunder develop, those 2 guys fall at the bottom. I mean, they just do. So handling the rotations will be interesting to go with. I agree with the decision not to just throw him in there for the 3 minutes of garbage time. You'd rather have that to Vit. But I don't really agree with him not playing at all. However, it's a very hard job to manage all these players. Because you think about it, if you're just building a timeline, a rotational timeline, you played Favors, Mann, Giddey, Pokusevski, Maledon, Bazley, Dort, Gilgeous-Alexander, Roby, Williams, Robertson-Earl, and then, of course, Vit, but only count Vit. Who of that group would you rather have not play? It's tough to kind of take somebody out because they all provide so much. Like Kenny Hustle, while you don't want to see him in the sense of development because like he kind of is what he is at this point. He was a nice 3-point shooter last year and has gone 1 of 2 so far this year. A great hustle player and a great defender. While Kenny Hustle is not really the player that you want to see develop, he is a player that provides leadership and provides that glue factor for a very young squad. You need some of those players. You can't just play 5 teenagers out there, or else they're going to get crushed with no real structure and no real development opportunity. So it's a very delicate walk for Mark and this Thunder rotation. And there's going to be some nights where maybe Theo Maledon doesn't play, and instead it's Ty Jerome. So seeing how he manages that moving forward, I do not think that Ty Jerome will never play again. So it's an interesting note, but it's a note to move forward with. Where who does he take out of the rotation whenever it is time for him to play? Now, the Thunder, of course, went small in this game as we knew they were. Darius Bazley had a better game than the box score even shows. Josh Giddey was good tonight. All the rookies were. Trey Mann, Josh Giddey, Jerome Robertson-Earl were all good. We'll dive into all those players, plus Theo Maledon, and some other facts about this game, including the interesting box score that this game presents, even though it was a huge blowout loss for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Of course, the record, the standings, the scoreboard does not matter for the Thunder this year, but there's a lot of good takeaway from the night as well, like Darius Bazley, who was really improved tonight. And we'll talk about that coming up. But first, I want to tell you right now, our good friends over at McDonald's. McDonald's is incredible. This episode of Locked on Thunder is brought to you by McDonald's. Proudly serving community since 1965, McDonald's has been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's a place where friends and family can come to reconnect. A place where classmates can meet up for a study group, knowing they'll have dependable Wi-Fi and endless supplies of French fries and McFlurries. Win or lose, it's the place where teammates, competitors, the home team, or the away team can come to recharge. It's the place you want, and you always look forward to stopping on a long road trip to rest your legs and to refuel. Listen, McDonald's is awesome. I personally love the McDonald's breakfast. You remember back in Little League, you would go to McDonald's after a big win or something about McDonald's on a long road trip. And again, even the Wi-Fi factor is a big, big deal. I remember one time getting my tires changed and just walking over to a McDonald's so I can continue to do work when my car's in the shop. And it's just awesome. Birthday parties in the Playhouse back in the day were incredible. McDonald's is where you want to go. So head over to your local McDonald's right now to refuel, to recharge. And did somebody say Locked on Thunder watch parties? See you at McDonald's pretty soon. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. I'm loving it. We are back on Locked on Thunder podcast, on Locked on Podcast Network, your teams every day. Talked about the rotation. It was a fascinating discovery that Jerome didn't play, but it's not overly sensitive right now, and we'll see how that progresses moving forward. Darius Bazley, though, really good tonight. The shot chart for Darius Bazley. You look at the box score, and Darius Bazley, while he has good numbers in terms of points and rebounds compiled, he only shoots 35% from the field and 14% from three. However, he had an end of the shot clock force-up shot. He had multiple of those. A step-back shot where maybe he shouldn't have taken that one. A drive-in step-back mid-range shot where maybe he shouldn't have taken that one on an air ball. But he also had some fantastic shots, like the cutting dunk on an SGA dump-off where he gets hacked by Whiteside and nails it. The aggressive drive by Bogdanovic and a slam while Whiteside, again, fouls him on that play. A great cut down the middle of the lane for a slam. Bazley sprinting the length of the floor end to end to hit a buzzer beater layup from Pokusevski. Hit a wide open three and then missed a wide open three. So he had explainable shots on the misses, even though he finishes 1 of 7 from three and 35% from the floor. A lot of those 3-point shots were advised. Again, there's only really 2 shots of those 14 that I'm thinking, probably shouldn't have done that one, right? It's the mid-range fade away, and it's the step back 3. Probably should have taken those 2 shots. You take away 2 of the 14, goes 5 of 12. It looks a little bit different, feels a little bit different. But Bazley was really, really good tonight and way more aggressive. And you could tell being aggressive was a point of emphasis for him this game. And it created those questionable looks early on, but then he settled in and he was able to balance that aggressiveness with being under control. Hard thing to do for any player, and Bazley did a good job of it tonight. Goes 4 of 5 from the free throw line, which is a big deal for Bazley. You know that getting to the free throw line really elevates you as a scorer. And so if Bazley can do that with his aggressiveness, it'll pay dividends for him long term. Very happy with what Darius Bazley did in this game. In 30 minutes tonight, he was one of the Thunder's best players. And this is a huge season. This is a make or break type of season for Darius Bazley. I've been saying it all summer long. It'll define the direction the Thunder want to go with him. Do they want to keep him as a building block, the way that I describe him as, or do they want to use him as a sweetener in a trade long term, or a nice role player, not really think twice about him? How are they going to view Darius Bazley after this season will largely be defined by this season. That's why it's a make or break type of year perceptionally. You're already seeing some of the Thunder fan base turn against Darius Bazley. So this year is important for him, and it started off on a good foot. Even with the poor shooting splits that were easily explainable, it's a good night for Darius Bazley and then the building block Bazley committee, if I do say so myself. Josh Giddey was good tonight. A record-breaking night for Josh Giddey. Hit a nice runner for his first points on the board. And he tried it again later on in the game. The floater, the runner, that'll be a great weapon for him moving forward as a playmaker. Once this team gets a rim runner and just a singer you can put in there to do that rim running stuff, with his playmaking ability, his ability to hit floaters and also kind of keep the defense guessing, okay, is this a floater or is this a lob to the big? Like that will just create such a dynamic in the 2-man game that allows the Thunder offense to have an edge and find exploitation of the defense, which when you look at this roster right now, how do they exploit defenses? How do they stretch out defenses? How do they put pressure on defenses? It's hard to come by. That's an area where the Thunder can do that with the right pieces around Josh Giddey. Record-breaking night from the glass. 10 rebounds is the most rebounds in a Thunder debut. 4 points, 3 assists, 20%, 28% from the floor, and then no three-point attempts. The big thing here from Josh Giddey's night was the rebounding. Again, like Bazley, 2 of 7 from the floor. Not a ton of shots that you wish that he had back, right? Not a ton of shots that you wish he didn't take. So it's kind of explainable with the poor shooting splits. Played a really good defensive team on the road, NBA debut. A lot of context that goes into these numbers. Now, the kind of talking point tonight and today and moving forward until we get to the Rockets game will be the fact that he shared the floor with Theo Maledon, and a lot of the times Maledon was the ball handler. And there's 2 schools of thoughts on this. Number one, what we discussed in the pregame show yesterday. To maximize how good this team can be, you should stagger Giddey and Shea's minutes as the ball handler, because they're going to set you up long term for success offensively. So I think that Josh Giddey should have gotten more ball handling opportunities tonight. That's one school of thought. What the Thunder did tonight was have him play more off ball, even with Theo Maledon on the floor. And the reason behind that school of thought would just simply be, look, long term, we want to put Giddey in those spots with Shea. Like, we want him and Shea to be able to work and coexist together for the length of a game. And as rotations get shorter, when you return to the postseason, in 2 years and 3 years, whenever that is, we all know in the postseason, you play a half-court style of game, and your rotations shrink from 13 or 12 tonight to all the way down to 8 in the postseason. So managing that, if you're only playing 8 guys, and Josh Giddey is one of your top blue-chip building blocks that have to be on the floor for you to win basketball games, it'll be with your max contract player in Shea. So why even worry about adjusting that role whenever right now what we should be focusing on is his limitation of playing off ball and getting adjusted to how to play off ball. Josh Giddey has said since day one, he has never played with a lead guard before. He's always been that guy. He's only 19 years old now, as recently as a couple weekends ago. So whenever you look at the big picture, you can understand why that happened, even as we wish it didn't happen, right? Even as we wish, hey, I wish we could have seen more Josh Giddey playmaking moments. Well, the Thunder kind of already know he can do that, right? Like, it's kind of a foregone conclusion. Hey, this guy can lead your second unit. When you're not trying to maximize winning a basketball game and you're trying to maximize development, what is better for Josh Giddey's development? That's what you got to ask yourself. And you might still come to the conclusion that it's being the lead ball handler for the second unit. You might side with what the Thunder did tonight, and we'll see where they go from here. It's only one game. It's only one usage of Josh Giddey. It happened a lot in the preseason as well, though, so it kind of leads us to believe, hey, this is kind of the trend that they want to use with Josh Giddey, where he's always going to be that secondary creator. He'll get opportunities to create. He'll get opportunities to play, make, and handle the ball, but it'll always be secondary no matter who the guard is. It'll be interesting to follow along with. I'm not going to freak out about it, as many people are right now, because I can see both sides of it, even though personally, if I was a head coach, I'd do it a different way, but I'm not a head coach. And I'm just here to try to help explain it to all of you and make it easier or funner or better to be a Thunder fan. Thank you again for making Locked on Thunder your first listen every single morning and every single day. We are here for you talking Thunder basketball. Trey Mann also had a fantastic night as a rookie. He had a step back 3 for his first NBA bucket over a great defender. Trey Mann tonight also got a tie up on the defensive end with Donovan Mitchell. He hit off the dribble mid-range shots. He had just a great move to get around 2 defenders with his dribble, but sadly in the post, he kind of dribbled off his foot a bit. But if he could keep his dribble and not go off of somebody's foot, either his or I think it was the defender's foot, Rudy Gobert's foot, he would have had an open look at the basket, which he created all by himself. He's a great shot creator. But the most impressive part of tonight's game was not the step back threes. It was not him getting his shot off in the mid-range shot and being more comfortable shooting the ball, as he goes 4 for 7 from the floor and 1 for 2 from beyond the arc and pours in 9 points and gets an assist and a steal and a block. The most impressive thing tonight was a possession where Tre Mann is around that break of the three-point line, and he lines up a 3. It's a good look. It's a look where if he lets it go, nobody says anything. Make or miss, nobody cares. Everyone agrees that's a good look. At some point, you got to let your shooter shoot. That's a good look. There was a player kind of rushing towards him, but he's still enough time and enough of a window to shoot the ball and have nobody complain if it missed. And so as a shooter, as a naturally born scorer, as somebody who your whole basketball life, you've been the guy to get the bucket, to pass up a good look that nobody would argue with the next day in film or the next day on Twitter, and pass up for a great shot for your guy in SGA, your max contract guy, that awareness, that maturity, very impressive for a guy in his NBA debut who looked to touch lost his first preseason game, and since then has had incredible strides. As we mentioned at the top of the show, watching him mature from game 1 of his career to 5, in this stretch here, preseason to the NBA regular season debut, has been shocking. And not because you didn't believe in Trey Mann. I've said all along, you let Trey Mann shoot, because if he goes 1 for 5 tonight, we know he's a great shooter. The next night he can go 4 for 5 from 3, and he breaks the game open for you. Everyone knows what Trey Mann can do skill-wise and ability-wise, but not a lot of players can make that quick of an adjustment to the NBA and can make that quick of a leap in 5 games, 4 of which were preseason. The overturn from the way that he looks, where he doesn't look overwhelmed anymore, and he doesn't look shocked anymore. He looks under control, like he belongs there already. Not a ton of players can do that, and the ones that can typically pan out to be special. And Trey Mann was really, really good tonight. Really good. We'll talk about his fellow rookie, Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, and so much more from tonight's game coming up. But first, I want to say right now, our good friends over at Calm. So Calm is really good. Do you want to know what makes LeBron James King James? It's simply sleep. That's right. Sleep is his superpower. Calm is the #1 app for sleep and meditation. It has teamed up with LeBron James to help you activate the power of sleep. When it comes to athletes, we tend to focus on the physical fitness. But there's another side to the game that's just as important. It's the mental fitness. Calm is the #1 app for sleep and meditation. It has teamed up with LeBron James to help you train your mind and become a champion version of yourself. LeBron and Calm know that your body is like any other muscle in your body, as your mind is like any other muscle in your body, but you don't have to be a world champion to learn how to train it. Calm can help you train your brain so you sleep better, reduce your stress, and perform at your best, just like King James. For LeBron, sleep is a critical part of his mental fitness routine. As he says, quote, "Getting good sleep and finding time to rest is one of the most valuable things I can do for my body and mind. From the sound of rain falling on the leaves to the bedtime sleep stories, Calm puts me into sleep within minutes, which means I wake up ready for my challenge," end quote. So if you head to calm.com/LockedOnNBA for a limited time, you'll get 40% off a Calm premium membership. With Calm, you have access to nature scenes LeBron loves, like rain on leaves, and so much more, like sleep stories and meditations, so you can be ready for any challenges that life throws your way. That's calm.com/LockedOnNBA. Again, for a limited time, our listeners can join LeBron James in using Calm to get a 40% discount on a Calm premium subscription at calm.com/LockedOnNBA. Unlock content to help you focus, erase stress, and sleep better. That's calm.com/LockedOnNBA. That's calm.com/LockedOnNBA. I want to tell you right now, we're good friends over at SweatBlock. SweatBlock is doctor created and doctor recommended. Works up to 7 days per use. Dry shirt guarantee. If SweatBlock does not keep you dry, you get your money back. Not just for armpits, but it's also for chest, back, feet, hands. Use it anywhere. And I mean anywhere that sweats. Whether it's a hot date or a big presentation or just simply milling around town, you don't want to be drenching with sweat. It's not appealing for you. It's not comfortable for you. And it's not the look you want to go with. So to stop that, go to sweatblock.com. You can find SweatBlock on Amazon, it's the #1 antiperspirant category on Amazon right now. You can also find it at your local CVS. However, with SweatBlock, what you need, especially in Oklahoma, where it's always humid, always hot for 90% of the year, you need to go to sweatblock.com and use our code LOCKEDON. That's our code LOCKEDON at sweatblock.com for 20% off. We are back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you for making Locked On Thunder your first listen every single day. For your second listen, go check out Locked On Fantasy Basketball with host Josh Lloyd. Getting you set for the fantasy season. You can still draft your teams now if you haven't already, or you can listen to him tell you how to manage your roster throughout the year, who is going to be a surprise, who's going to be a dud, who's going to have great games that night. He'll recap it all and preview it all on Locked On Fantasy Basketball. I think he turns out like 5 shows a day. I'm not exaggerating on that. Go check it out. Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Again, both podcasts are free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube. Subscribe anywhere you get podcasts from, and thank you for making Locked On Thunder your first listen every single morning, every single day on Locked On Thunder. Now, Jeremiah Robinson-Earl was really good tonight. He looked like a grizzled vet tonight, and I want more JRE minutes, and I'll say that almost no matter how much he plays, because I just love watching Jeremiah Robinson-Earl play, but 13 minutes was not enough for JRE. He had some great backdoor cuts, really good shooter from beyond the arc, really comfortable and a better defender than what we've seen at the small ball position. Goes 2 for 3 from 3 on a great pick and pop game that really spaces the floor and helps open up the Thunder offense, especially whenever they're getting played drop coverage on like they were tonight against Utah. 4 of 6 from the floor, 10 points tonight, 2 rebounds, 1 foul. Remember, 4-foul night against the Bucks during his first career start. 4 quick ones. And so tonight, with that same kind of energy, your first NBA game, your first NBA debut against a tough physical center in Rudy Gobert and a tough physical team in Utah, only 1 foul tonight. That was big for him to adjust to that quickly. Much like we talked about Trey Mann adjusting to the NBA, Jerry's adjusted the same way. And whenever you have that ability to develop that quickly, it's typically a good sign long term. Now, one player who did not have a great game was Theo Maledon. Not a good first half from him. Missed many open looks, 1 of 5 from the floor, 0 for 3 from beyond the arc, and a turnover in just 11 minutes. And this caused an outrage from Thunder Twitter. And with Darius Bazley playing better tonight, and I think going to play better for the rest of the season, Theo Maledon can quickly become the next Darius Bazley, because the Thunder fan base was already having some unseemly takes about Theo Maledon, a year removed from crowning him as the 6th man of the year of the future. He did not have a good night tonight. Finished with 4 points, 3 assists, 2 rebounds, and 2 turnovers in 21 minutes. Handled the ball a lot when Giddey was on the floor, as we mentioned before. I think that was a bad night for Theo Maledon. I won't sugarcoat it. And unlike the other box scores, it's hard to excuse the 1 for 6 shooting because of how many of them were such quality looks. But it's also one game, and you kind of have to walk the line of overreacting in either direction from one game. I'm not ready to say you throw Theo Maledon out of the picture long term, but I'm also ready to say that you probably need to, if you were somebody who was kind of overwhelmed last year with the hope that he could be some starting point guard in the NBA, I think that last year it was clear, and also tonight it was clear, and this preseason has been clear, that he's a quality backup point guard. And it's a matter of, is he your 6th man, or is he your 10th and 11th man? And that's what we're watching for this year with Theo Maledon. I think that that's kind of the area that we're going to go with him. And tonight kind of validated that a little bit, but again, it's only one game. And I don't think that you should make any kind of rash decision, especially with how quality Maledon looked last year. We can go back and forth and quibble with the words you want to use about last year's performance for Maledon. He looked like a quality player if you actually watch him play and not like his box score. He looked like a quality player. So to go from quality to very bad last night or tonight, that is something that just doesn't happen, right? In the form of a season to a season. He'll still be a quality player. It's just a matter of, if you had hopes from being a long-term starter or something, of course you'll be disappointed tonight, and you'll be disappointed for a long time. He's going to be a good bench player, and that's kind of it. This game was interesting. Derrick Favors missed a ton of bunnies, and Derrick Favors was not good tonight. I don't know if he was emotional from returning to Utah. He goes 2 of 9 from the floor. A lot of them were very great looks that he just blew himself. Gets 9 rebounds, though. Plays solid defensively. It was a lot better whenever he's on the floor, it felt like. We'll have to check that on the tape tomorrow morning. And yes, I'm a sick puppy that'll watch this game 3 more times. Well, you don't have to, and go over this game over and over again. But Derrick Favors was not good tonight, but he's a veteran, and you know what to expect from him, and he'll have good nights and he'll have bad nights, and it's just a thing. Lou Dort and Donovan Mitchell, though, it was fun basketball. I wish we could have just seen them play one-on-one, because both ends of the floor, with Mitchell chasing Dort and Dort chasing Mitchell, it was fun to watch those two go at it head-to-head. Vit making his debut, good for him. Of course, the ACL thing sucks, and it's glad that he's just back playing basketball in general. The Thunder went 2 of 35, I should say 7 of 35, felt like 2 of 35, 7 of 5 from 3. You won't win games like that. Utah goes 14 of 47 from three. They caught 5 from three in the third quarter. But other than that, the Thunder did a good job of keeping them off the glass, keeping them off the 3-point line, which was the key to the game. The key to the game was to keep the Jazz contained from three, and then you catch fire from three. The Thunder offense didn't keep their end of the bargain, but the Thunder defense did a pretty good job from three on Utah, but left open a ton, of wide open looks from their small ball defense, which we'll get into tomorrow, more in depth on that tomorrow. Oklahoma City was once down by 26 points. They were only out-rebounded, but despite the small ball offense and the small ball lineups, were only out-rebounded by 1 rebound on the glass against Utah. They also only had 1 more assist than Utah. They had 2 fewer steals and 3 fewer blocks than Utah, and Oklahoma City had 4 more turnovers than Utah did. Points in the paint. Utah won that matchup 50-46. Second chance points, Utah won 15-11. Oklahoma City did not allow a fast break point, and that's the benefit of playing small because you can be better on that transition defense and kind of limit the fast breaks. But all of those were pretty even categories for the Thunder and Utah. What killed Oklahoma City was the shooting splits. Utah shooting splits 44, 29, 86. The field, the three, and the free throw. Oklahoma City 37, 20, 61. That's the tale of the game. Of course, my bet of the day was Thunder plus 12.5, and we are back, folks. You know it was a struggle last year betting on NBA games, and we're 0-1 to start the year. My Moneyball pick of the day was Lou Dort, and Lou Dort went 1 of 6. But Trey Mann, if you had Trey Mann in the contest, you won because he goes 2 of 3, and he wins the Moneyball of the game. The MVP of the game, I'll give it to Bazley. It's a good game from Bazley, and I enjoyed watching Darius Bazley play in this one. So we go 0 of 2 on the games. We lose the bet of the day, and we lose the Moneyball. But Bazley did win MVP, so that's good for the brand. And we had a fun time recapping this game. On tomorrow's show, we will preview the Rockets game, and Saturday we're going to recap the Rockets game. Sunday, we'll have a recap of the 76ers game. Tomorrow's show, we're going to be here preview both those games, talk about the small ball offense and defense from this game, and dive into more about this game, plus our week 1 takeaways and overreactions. By that time, everyone in the NBA will have played, and we'll get to overreact to some Thunder basketball and some NBA basketball. It's a fun opening week. So this has been a delight so far. It's why the NBA is the best league. It's why we love this league. It's been so great seeing the Celtics in double overtime. The ending of that Kings game was awesome. The Hornets comeback was awesome. We had so many great games, and we are still a little bit away, hours away at this point, from Luka taking on Trae Young. That'll be a fun matchup as well on TNT. We'll have the conclusion of the top 75 player list tonight on TNT to see all the Thunder representation, which I think we're only missing Russell Westbrook and probably Carmelo Anthony is on that list as well. So those 2 guys, I think, are the only ones missing so far from the list. Other than that, it's been announced by now in terms of Thunder representation. That'll be fun as well. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Thunder your first listen every single morning. We're here for you every single day. Subscribe for free on all platforms, including on YouTube. And really appreciate you sticking with this podcast specifically, as my voice is just shot tonight. I have a very, very sore throat. Anyway, follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Until tomorrow, be good and be good to one another.